Hey guys, Angry Monkey here.
And Jackson Farrell from Hot Pile of Garbage.
We're doing some more 999, and Junpei thinks he's figured out the culprit, but he wants everybody to follow him to the big hospital room. So that is where we're going in this episode.
Yep, we're going to open up that envelope in the center of the board and see if our suspicions are correct. Actually, before we get started, I was hoping you could do something for me.
Junpei stopped in front of the door 3 and turned around.
Ace, 7, and Lotus, could you please place your palms on the red? Why? If we need to get to the shower room, why don't we just... No, we're not going inside. Once you've authenticated, step away from the door.
Step away from the door.
Why?
Because I said so.
Please, just do it. Or perhaps you don't want to know who killed Snake and Clover?
Junpei's implication was clear, and 7 understood perfectly.
Fine. What about you, Ace? Lotus? Very well. Sure!
Quickly, they pressed their palms on the red. Once they had finished, they stepped away from the door, as Junpei had instructed. 3 asterisks shone from the red display panel. And as Junpei approached it and held his bracelet over the scanner, he made quite sure he didn't place his palm on it and instead only brought his bracelet near it. The 4th asterisk appeared, just as Junpei had expected. It was possible to authenticate it without placing one's palm on the red, so long as the bracelet was brought near it. Junpei pulled the lever down.
What is that proof?
Door 3 opened like a hungry mouth, and then 9 long seconds passed.
Because that's the noise that you make when you're hungry.
That kind of is. And that's the sound that your stomach makes when it's hungry.
True.
And the door shut, unfed. That's what your stomach sounds like when it doesn't get food.
It's resentful.
Junpei walked slowly back to the others, who were waiting some distance from the door, talking to one another. And that's also why your stomach starts to hurt you, because it says, "Feed me, or I'm going to hurt you." Santa and June had joined them as well. It looked as though they hadn't found a chance to break into the conversation yet. As Junpei approached, they turned to look at him, curiosity playing on their faces. Before long, the other 3 did as well. Clearly, they were all expecting some answers.
Thanks. I appreciate your cooperation.
Clearly, they'd hoped for something more forthcoming. He continued.
By the way, Ace, would you mind if I asked you something? What is it? Do you know who I am? What? What kind of question? Just answer it, please. Who am I? You're Junpei. Of course. Who else would you be? Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. Actually, I'm Santa.
Wait, so there are 2 Santas! Whoa!
What?
Ace's voice was full of surprise, but it was also tinged with confusion and fear. Everyone else looked nearly as surprised. Santa looked especially shocked to discover he was actually someone else. Whoa, you're Santa, but I thought I was Santa. Then who am I if you're Santa? If he spoke, however, the trap would be exposed. Junpei quickly continued.
The clothes I'm wearing, I borrowed from Junpei. And the clothes he's wearing are mine. We had a little swap. That's ridiculous! Impossible! So you're saying I'm not Santa? Of course you aren't! Why? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? If you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. 1 plus 7 plus 8 plus 3 equals 19. 1 plus 9 would be 10. The digital route would be 1. But the 4 of us just opened door 3. You can't possibly be Santa. Your bracelet number isn't 3. It's 5, right?
Only then When it was too late, did Ace realize his mistake. He set his jaw and glared at Junpei.
You're exactly right. My bracelet number is 5.
As he spoke, Junpei lifted his wrist up to show everyone the bright red 5 on his wrist.
Sorry, Ace. I tricked you. Of course, I'm not really Santa. I'm Junpei.
Oh, bummer, man. I thought there were 2 Santas, but at least I know who I am now. I really am Santa.
Who could possibly think I was? It's obvious I'm not. To think I was ridiculous.
Oh.
But I guess you couldn't see just how obvious it was. I asked you before, didn't I?
What makes you so sure I'm not Santa?
And you answered.
If you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now.
Most people wouldn't say something like that. As their justification for why I'm not Santa, I mean. The first thing that would come to anyone else's mind wouldn't be the bracelet number. There'd be only one thing they'd say. One sentence. You don't have his face.
Or something along the lines of, you don't look like him. But I guess
Yep.
that's the same thing. It's just kind of a weird translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody would say, you don't have his face. You'd say, you don't look like him.
Yeah, exactly. But this just hits the nail a little harder on the head.
Yeah.
Ace, you have prosopagnosia. Am I right?
Junpei's voice was quiet and calm. He knew the truth, and so did Ace. And I think the computer is a little loud, so I'm going to turn that down.
There we go.
He could hear a sudden buzz, a conversation from the others.
Prosopagnosia? Prosopagnosia!
Prosopagnosia! What's that?
What's that?
You heard Lotus begin to.
Oh, then Lotus wouldn't have asked what prosopagnosia is, because she knew.
I said it as an exclamation, not a question.
Okay. Ace glanced at them, then turned back towards Junpei and sighed.
Sigh. Very well. I confess. I have prosopagnosia. I cannot differentiate human faces. Is that what this was about? You want to mock me for my disorder.
Oh, horrible person you are, Junpei.
No, not at all. I'm not making fun of you at all. In fact, I feel kind of bad for you. No, the real reason I brought this up is that there's an excellent chance the person who killed Snake has prosopagnosia.
Ace's face tightened, his eyes narrowed.
What do you mean?
Junpei leaned casually against the iron piping of one of the beds.
I'll just come right out with it. I think it was you, Ace. You killed him.
Junpei was suddenly very aware of 5 pairs of eyes on him. He had their undivided attention now. The room had grown
I'll just come right out with it.
quiet. Junpei took a deep breath.
That's ridiculous. What possible evidence do you... I have 3 pieces of evidence. The first. Think back to a few hours ago. You made us argue over the 3 doors here in the big hospital room. There was no way all 7 people could go through them. Lotus suggested that we sacrifice one of us.
Lotus looked away awkwardly. Junpei glanced at her and continued.
Then you, Ace, said, I'll stay here. Why would you say something like that? It's pretty simple, really. You didn't want us to see the dead body in the shower room. You see, if Ace had stayed behind, there were only 2 doors the rest of us could go through. Doors 7 and 8. There was no way we could get through door 3, the shower room. You knew that, didn't you, Ace? That's why you volunteered to stay behind. Come on now, I think that's going a bit too far. I can understand if you're jealous of my bravery, but please, don't devalue my actions. I only wanted to save the rest of you. Surely you can understand my altruism. Altruism, huh?
Junpei stared off in the darkness at something very interesting and lazily began to dig a persistent bit of wax out of his ear. It's kind of some random bit of dialogue. I mean, was that really relevant to the story that you had to say, oh, yeah, There we go. Got that.
It just had to be wax, too. It's a little bit gross. You already knew, didn't you? You knew that whichever doors we took, eventually we'd end up back in the big hospital room. What on earth are you saying? Of course I didn't know that. How could I have? Really? Yes, yes!
Pleading was not something they'd heard from Ace before. Junpei pulled a piece of wax from his ear, glanced at it, and flicked it off into the...
Oh, well, that's cool.
Junpei, that landed on me!
Sorry! I can't see anything in the darkness. I've still got 2 more pieces of evidence that say you're the killer. The second is that, as I said earlier, you have prosopagnosia. Then you mean to imply that a person who can't distinguish human faces must be a bad person?
Shame on you, Junpei.
Junpei, they call that prejudice. No, I'm not that stupid. Then why? Well, before I explain, I suppose there's something I should tell you. The corpse in the shower room, it's not Snake's. What? What?
Ace's face went pale. The others looked confused as well. If the body wasn't Snake's.
I didn't put it together right away, but there was something Clover told me. She said that Snake's left arm was prosthetic.
Okay, good. It's not in Clover's voice. It's in Junpei's voice.
He'd lost his real arm in an accident. But the body we saw in the shower room, let's call him Guy X. Guy X's left arm was definitely flesh and blood. I'd totally watch that anime, you know? Guy X.
Guy X. My name is Guy X.
I have a prosthetic arm. Or I don't. We're making up this anime as we go along.
I'm also blind, because why not?
Yeah. I have super senses that allow me to sense my way around.
I can smell.
I can smell directions.
That way.
Oh, Guy X, you were the coolest. No, that's impossible.
Ace had started muttering deliriously to himself, shaking his head back and forth. Junpei was long past caring.
Let's say, hypothetically, that the killer didn't have prosopagnosia. If that were the case, he would have immediately realized that Guy X wasn't Snake. Even if the clothes were the same as Snake's, their faces would be completely different. Would have been obvious they were different people. And yet they still killed him. Why? Why would they kill a stranger who'd only just shown up? On the other hand, if the killer did have prosopagnosia, it makes sense. They thought Guy X was Snake and killed him. Wait just a moment. Let's say you're right and I mistook Guy X for Snake. Even if I did, I would have no motive to kill him. Why would I want to kill Snake?
Because snakes are gross.
Ew, yuck. I can think of at least 2 motives. 3 if you count the snakes are gross theory. 1, Snake knew about your past. If he ever revealed what he knew, that would have been really bad for you. You really didn't want that to happen. So, to make sure Snake's mouth stayed shut, you killed him.
You could have just sealed his mouth shut.
Instead of blown it wide open. 2, Snake had a grudge against you. You knew that, or at least you could have easily assumed he did. Even without exposing your identity, he was a threat to you. You never knew when you might be attacked. You couldn't ever let your guard down. Every moment was a moment he might try something. You didn't want that kind of danger hanging over you, so you...
Hey, hold on a minute. For the first time since the beginning of Junpei's explanation, someone besides Ace spoke. What's the past that Ace wouldn't want us to know? Why did Snake have a grudge against him, man? You gotta answer my questions, man.
Look at this.
He handed Santa a small piece of paper. Santa squinted at the paper and began to read. The nunnery game was played once before 9 years ago. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. It was planned by the following 4 people. Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO Gitaru Hongu. What is this? Slowly, Santa looked up from the paper. His eyes met Junpei's.
It's the message from Zero. It was in the safe in the first-class cabin.
Then suddenly,
Give me a break!
Ace's face went red and shaking, and his voice was full of fury tinged with desperation.
That paper is a lie. Someone is trying to frame me. Me? You said me, right?
Junpei's eyes narrowed, and the trap began to close. Ace inhaled sharply. His eyes flicked off of Junpei to something, anything else.
Wouldn't that mean that you're admitting that you're Hongo, the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical? Or am I mistaken?
It was as though a switch has been flipped, or a twitch has been...
That twitch has been slipped.
Yeah. The color drained from Ace's face, and as he realized what he'd done, his eyes went wide.
Very well.
Hold on. I don't...
Mm-hmm.
Because naturally, Junpei already knew that he was the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical because Santa told him.
Yeah.
Because Ace brought it up to Santa. So it still isn't really a contradiction for him to say, they're trying to frame me for...
Ace didn't know he knew, though. So if,
But Ace knows who he is, and he knows that he himself is the Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO.
Ace has disclosed this information first to Santa earlier, and now to the rest of the group.
Yeah, so I don't understand why it's a contradiction or any slip of a trap for him to say, well, that paper's trying to frame me, and saying, oh, you admit to be the CEO, the pharmaceutical CEO. Oh, yeah, I admit.
Well, does Junpei spell it out if we go on?
Maybe.
Very well, I admit that much. I am certainly the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical, Gintaro Hongo. So what if I am? I don't know anything about this nonary game that supposedly took place 9 years ago. Everything on that scrap of paper is BS.
Bull poopy.
The S stands for poopy. Someone is trying to set me up, you see. First of all,
Ace stammered as he tried desperately to work himself to a more tenable position.
Junpei, you're claiming I did all this by myself. Think that over, all right? How could I have killed Snake all by myself? Not Snake. It was Guy X. I don't care who it was. You said the killer put this other man in door 3, right? Yeah, maybe. Then I couldn't have possibly done that alone. I couldn't have opened door 3 with only myself and Guy X. Nope, you could have.
Oh, that was Santa.
Oh.
And...
Huh? Ah! What?
Ace's face was tight and his teeth were clenched. Junpei fixed him with a level stare. The trap was about to close.
Actually, Ace, when you were unconscious, I took something from you. Remember when you were injected with that anesthetic and fell asleep in the big hospital room? The very one we're in right now? Yeah, back then. I took this.
Junpei put his hand into his pocket.
No, you couldn't have.
Ace's right hand moved. Junpei smiled.
I got you, Ace. Your right hand there tells me all I needed to know. You want to tell me what you were so worried about? What's in your pocket? It's the number 9 bracelet, isn't it? Ace, Guy X, and the 9th man's bracelet. That was all you needed to open door 3.
So all those numbers equals 3.
That's how you killed Guy X all by yourself, Ace. All you needed was the number 9 bracelet in your chest pocket.
Ace lowered his hand from where it had been, stopped halfway to his pocket. He looked down at the floor, his face hidden from Junpei. All he could see was the corner of Ace's mouth twitching like a dying fish.
So did we figure out why it matters that he's the Cradle Pharmaceutical guy?
I don't know, because it still could. I mean, because at that point in the story, it's still one of those. Yeah, they're trying to frame me, and yeah, I admit I'm the Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO. It just doesn't feel like something that you would be afraid or ashamed that somebody knows. It's kind of one of those. I mean, if somebody says, "Oh, so you admit that you're the CEO?" Yeah,
Big deal.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Well, the only thing I can think of is that Junpei played that card to divert Ace's attention from the bracelet reveal that he was setting up for.
Maybe
just to get.
I mean, maybe it was the fact that Ace might have been afraid of. Maybe it was still the whole thing of nobody wanted to reveal who they really were. The whole, oh yeah, since I am the CEO, somebody might come after my company or my family or whatever, and maybe that was why he didn't really want that information revealed.
Yeah,
I don't know. Viewers, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, we can interact here.
Yeah. Let's go a couple more minutes. There's something really big that I wanted to, unless we wanted to have that big reveal in the next episode.
What do you think? You're running the show.
Well, we still have quite a bit of this ending to go. It's actually a lot longer than I thought it would be.
Okay. Pushing on? All right.
Couple more minutes.
Go ahead. Tell me I don't have the bracelet, if that's what you want to do. But if you could take off your coat and hand it to me, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll have to take it from you by force. Right, Seven? Yeah. It'd be my pleasure.
Seven cracked his knuckles with a sound like gunfire.
Bang, bang, bang! That's some crackly knuckles right there.
Ace roared with laughter.
Like a lion.
He threw his arms wide and his head back and left. Oh, that's actually the one time that seems to match up with a sound that scarcely belonged there. Then it stopped. His arms came down and his head dropped to look straight ahead at Junpei. His face was flat and cold, devoid of any emotion.
Well done, Junpei. As you so correctly deduced, I have the number 9 bracelet. I retrieved it while we were searching for the missing hardware for the red. I left the room I was supposed to search, and headed to the first-class cabin on B deck.
Oh, no, I didn't want to run to Ace, because... another line of dialogue, even though we were just there.
Let's go back downstairs and check out that hallway with all the doors.
They took off at a run down the stairs.
We are gonna have such good cardio after this.
There was no sign of anyone. Snake, of course, was nowhere to be found. His voice showed no emotion, no sense of remorse or interest. It was almost bored, as though he were reciting an especially dull corporate letter.
My purpose was to obtain the number 9 bracelet. 9 is a potent ally in the nonary game. Adding 9 to any set of numbers won't alter the digital root.
And, okay, so he's just explaining all that.
Yep. As you can see, 9 is a very useful number here. With it, one can go anywhere with anyone. So I made for the first-class cabin to obtain it.
Ace successfully acquired the number 9 bracelet. He also found an unexpected bonus, the knife the 9th man had been holding. He slipped both of them into his chest pocket and left as quickly as he'd come. He walked down the stairs and headed back to where he was supposed to be. That was when he met Guy X and mistook him for Snake. Snake was on his way to the large hospital room and had not noticed Ace behind him. Ace made sure it stayed that way. He followed the man wearing Snake's clothes to door 3. When the man stopped, he walked up behind him quietly and called out, "Snake!" The man turned to look at Ace. He said nothing. No words came out of his half-open mouth. He seemed dazed somehow, almost like a man half asleep. Perhaps he had been drugged. It didn't matter to Ace. Ace was certain that the man was Snake. He knew Snake had been a part of the nonary game 9 years before. Snake hadn't recognized Ace immediately, but he was blind. That much made sense. Why, then, hadn't Snake said anything to him? Surely he hadn't forgotten what had happened to him in the nunnery game, but not once had he attempted to confront Ace. Perhaps his lack of sight had prevented him from recognizing Ace, or perhaps Snake had conspired with Zero to deceive Ace. In either event, he was a threat, and it was better to deal with him sooner rather than later. Ace's mind was made up. He moved. He held the number 9 bracelet over the red. He waved his own bracelet in front of the red and finally grabbed Snake's arm and shoved his hand against the scanner panel. The door opened. Ace threw the man through it. Through. 9 seconds later, the door shut.
Sealing Guy X's fate.
81 seconds passed. Boom.
Goes the dynamite.
Pop goes the weasel. The man inside the door passed away. Wow, that's probably the most mild way to say, yeah, he blew up.
They ran out of synonyms for blood and guts.
He passed away.
He was no longer with us.
He has moved on to the
great beyond.
The great beyond, yeah. I was trying to think of all the other synonyms of passed away. From what I watched yesterday, the scratching post in the sky, or the litter box in the sky, or whatever. It was kind of one of, or in the Pink Floyd reference, the great gig in the sky. So
the great Titanic in the sky. Titanic replica.
I don't know if that would be a good thing to be on in heaven. Would be a Titanic replica.
Yeah.
But anyway.
After that, I returned to my post as though nothing had happened. After conducting my own search, I returned to the hospital room where the 1 a.m. bell rang.
Ace's eyes were cold and his cheeks were hollow and pallid. When he spoke, only his lips and tongue moved. The rest of his face was eerily still. Junpei glared at Ace. He took a deep breath and thought about the next question he had to ask. He didn't want to know. He knew what the answer would be. Or he didn't want to. He knew what the answer would be. He just didn't want to hear it. Junpei swallowed, then spoke, and the next episode I was waiting for a certain event to happen, but that hasn't happened yet. But this episode is running a little long, so we'll figure out what this question's going to be in the next
episode. We'll see you then.
Goodbye, everybody.